Hello everyone and welcome back to Jikook Diaries, the sacred corner of the internet where emotions are raw, glances are loaded with meaning, and silence often speaks louder than words. Today we revisit a moment so subtle, so deeply human, that it left millions of armies blinking in disbelief. A moment when Jimin, in front of the world, talked about Jungkook's vulnerability. And yes, we all saw it. It happened during an interview, or maybe a live broadcast, those spaces where the boys often forget the cameras and just speak from the heart. Jimin was asked about the members, their strengths, their roles, what they admire. But when it came to Jungkook, something shifted in his tone. His voice softened, his eyes lingered, and then he said it, words that weren't just complimentary, but emotionally charged. He spoke about Jungkook's growth, not as an idol, not just as a vocalist or performer, but as a person. He said he had watched Jungkook grow, not just taller or more muscular, not just sharper on stage, but emotionally, spiritually. He talked about how Jungkook carries the weight of expectations, how he works in silence even when he's hurting, how he masks his tiredness with a smile, how he often tries to act strong for the sake of everyone else. And in that moment, Jimin's eyes shimmered with something unspoken: pride, admiration, maybe even something deeper. His words weren't just about Jungkook, the youngest member. They were about Jungkook, the human being behind the global superstar. And when Jimin said, he tries so hard to not let anyone down, even if it means holding in his own pain, you could hear the tightness in his throat, see the flicker of emotion in his face. The fandom paused, because what we witnessed wasn't just a member praising another member. This was Jimin, a man who has stood beside Jungkook through the chaos, the pressure, the early years of innocence, and the later years of exhaustion, opening a window into Jungkook's hidden battles. And it was intimate. It was real. The camera zoomed slightly on Jimin's face, and for a brief second, his lips curled into a soft smile, the kind you give when you're thinking about someone you deeply care for, the kind of smile that isn't rehearsed. And then, like clockwork, Jungkook, who had been quietly listening, turned his head ever so slightly, eyes locked on Jimin, as if hearing those words broke through some wall he didn't even know he had. There was no need for hugs, no need for a dramatic response. The silence between them said it all. That silence screamed of history, of shared hotel rooms, of late-night talks, of hands reaching out during tough rehearsals, of quiet understanding when words fell short. And we all saw it, not just with our eyes, but with our hearts. That moment, fleeting as it was, became etched in army memory. Clips were saved, edits were made, translations spread like wildfire. Fans from across the globe commented the same thing in different languages. Did you see the way Jimin looked at him? He wasn't just talking about a teammate, was he? That was love. But love takes many forms. And the way Jimin spoke of Jungkook wasn't confined to romance or friendship. It was deeper. It was respect. It was witnessing someone grow from a boy into a man and feeling protective of every version in between. In the days that followed, Jungkook didn't say much. But fans noticed something: how he stood a little closer to Jimin during their next performance. How he laughed just a little louder when Jimin made a joke. How, when the lights went down and the world wasn't watching, he let his gaze linger on Jimin just a heartbeat longer. Some things don't need to be confirmed. Some truths are understood in the spaces between words, in the way a name is spoken, in the way eyes soften, in the silence after a confession. That moment when Jimin talked about Jungkook's heart, his burden, his pain, his growth was one of them. And as always, the world kept spinning. But for ARMY, for the Jikook fans who have followed every breath between these two, that moment is frozen in time. A small crack in the glass wall of idol life that let us see the real, raw, vulnerable connection between two souls who clearly mean more to each other than words can explain. And still, we go back to that video. We rewind that moment, not just because of what Jimin said, but because of what Jungkook didn't. He didn't interrupt. He didn't deflect. He didn't laugh it off like idols are sometimes taught to do. He listened, fully, deeply, like someone who knew that what was being said came from a place that transcended interviews, fan service, or showmanship. You could almost feel Jungkook's heart catching in his throat. That ever so slight nod he gave in response, it wasn't just acknowledgement. It was acceptance. It was a quiet, "I know you see me. Thank you." Moments like this are rare, especially in a world where privacy is scarce and vulnerability is often seen as weakness. But Jimin, with his gentle strength, chose to speak Jungkook's truth. And Jungkook, with his quiet resilience, chose to let himself be seen. Together, they painted a portrait of emotional trust that many only dream of having in their lives. And maybe that's the beauty of Jikook. It's not always loud. It's not always obvious, but it's always there. In the way they speak, in the way they look at each other, in the way they don't have to explain anything, because everything they feel is written in the space between them. As ARMY, we're lucky to witness these moments, even if just glimpses of something so honest, so human, and so heart-achingly beautiful. Whether you call it friendship, soul connection, or something deeper, one thing is certain. When Jimin talks about Jungkook, the world listens and feels. And maybe that's why this fandom holds on so tightly. Because in every touch, in every gaze, in every unspoken word between Jimin and Jungkook, there's a story unfolding, a story about growing up, about holding on, about finding home in another human being. And we're just lucky enough to witness it from the front row. Until next time, this has been Jikook Diaries. Thank you for being with us. Keep holding on to the love, the glances, the stories, because in every little moment, Jikook continues to tell a tale that words alone could never fully capture. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, add, comment this channel. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.